Yes, this entire video is shot on this tiny little, very inexpensive webcam. Apart from those shots, obviously, but I want you to see. You get the point. This video is shot on this. I've got one question for you, or rather this camera today, which is, can this roughly £100 webcam effectively help me record a YouTube video which will hopefully be seen by thousands of people? Now, normally I use these cameras over here. I'm not doing that today. I use a mic that's over there. I'm not doing that today. Everything you see and hear is coming from this little EMEET PIXY camera. Now, this isn't what the PIXY is for, obviously, and EMEET isn't suggesting that you use it to shoot YouTube videos, but my thinking with this is, if it can help me do this, then it's not going to have a problem filming or capturing your web conversation with your colleagues or your friends or your family. So it's quite a big test. And I'm using it for everything: pre-production, which I'll explain in a moment, but also production, visual, audio, the whole lot. It's a little bit scary, but the reason I'm doing this is because not everyone wants to use a great big DSLR camera like one of these over here. Yes, you can use them and you can use other more expensive cameras for webcams, but it's a bit of a faff. This isn't. You just plug it into your laptop and you're done. And as you can see, it does some very interesting stuff that a big expensive camera can't do. Now, as you can see, you can mount the EMEET PIXY on a tripod, so it has the proper thread for that if you need to, which is very handy for someone like me. But equally, you can just attach it to the top of your laptop or the top of your monitor, thanks to this very useful and very secure built-in stand that you basically screw into the bottom of it, and once again, you're done. It just means you can carry it around with you. So if you do lots of work in coffee shops and that sort of stuff, you can just take your EMEET PIXY with you and pop it on top of your laptop. And in terms of the hardware, right out of the box, the PIXY feels premium. It's compact, but it's really well made. And again, for the price, that is unusual in this category. There's lots of very cheap webcams out there that feel very cheap and don't last very long. The PIXY does give you a lot of confidence. Chucking this into your bag, for instance, and taking it around the world with you, for instance, I wouldn't worry about it at all. And setup really is a breeze. As I mentioned earlier, you just plug it into your laptop, you download the EMEET Studio app, which I'll show you in a second, and you're away. You can do that with USB-C, by the way, which is pretty much the standard connection for most people these days. But if you still have an old-fashioned Windows laptop with a USB-A connection, you do get an adapter in the box. And it works with the EMEET Studio app, which I have running on my MacBook here. It is Windows compatible as well, obviously, and it's full of very, very useful features. Right, let's dive into the Studio app briefly so you can see what I'm talking about. Firstly, we get all of the controls for the camera. So for instance, if I want to swing it around a little bit so I'm a bit more in frame, I can do that here. That's better. Yeah, happy with that. We can also turn on live tracking, which I'll come on to in a moment. But you can also change all of the settings. So for instance, I have a very specific white balance setting in this Studio, which I can set in here, 5500K, and if you're interested, and lock it at that white balance so it doesn't change at all. I can change the tone as well, the skin tones, the sharpness, the saturation, the contrast. You can really get quite granular with the camera controls if you want to, or you can just leave it on auto and it does everything for you. We can also go into assistance and change things like the focus, so you can have manual focus if you want to. Could be quite useful if you're demonstrating stuff or you want to focus on certain things in the frame. There is a privacy mode which it will set automatically, so after 10 seconds, 1 minute or 15 minutes of not being used, it basically turns itself off. So if you don't want people to see what you're doing in the room, not that you'd be doing anything, whatever, you know what I'm saying. Basically, it's a very handy privacy feature if you don't want to keep recording or keep streaming what you're doing in the room. There's a very useful audio mixing feature, which if I go into here, firstly, you can see that the PIXY mic is indeed picking up everything you're hearing in this video, but equally, below that, I can, if I want to, mix in the audio from the MacBook Pro speakers. I've got other speakers and things attached to this Mac, which means if I want to, I can mix everything in. That's incredibly rare. You don't see this kind of control, and it may not be something that you'd use, but if it is something you'd use, again, for the price of this webcam, brilliant. Then we have the AI part of the software, which is script generation. So if you want to basically map out a video and you want to do it with shot guidance and camera positions and all that sort of stuff, you can use Gemini or you can use ChatGPT. And I think They also have, they've got Claude and Grok built into this as well. So they've got all of those AI models built into the software, and you can basically just give it very natural suggestions in this little text box here, and it will build a shot list for you, which again, you may not need, but you definitely won't need for your board meeting. But if you're going to use this camera for this sort of stuff, it's very, very useful. And there's loads of presets to get you going as well. Speaking of AI, there's something else built into the EMEET PIXY, which is tracking and auto framing. So at the moment, it's static. I can move around and nothing happens basically. However, if I turn on auto tracking, which I can do in the software, or with a hand gesture like that, it starts to follow me. Now this isn't unique. Lots of webcams do this, but again, you have to pay more for them, generally speaking. And this is really fast. I can move over here. In fact, I can go all the way around here. It can go all the way around. Hopefully you can still hear me. And then back into frame. It picks me up again. It's just very useful when you're doing presentations, or you just want to stay in frame and you're the sort of person who moves around a lot, which some of us are. The way it does this is via a dual camera system. So there's a 4K lens on here, but also an AI lens basically. And the 4K lens does the image and the AI lens does the tracking. And also it does things like, for instance, auto lighting based on my facial position and the room and all that sort of stuff, which is really, really clever. And again, I can just turn that tracking off by going like that, and it's back to normal. There's also that privacy mode, which I'm not sure what's going to happen if I do it while this is recording, but let's find out. So if I go into here and go into privacy mode, it's gone off. Now, can you still hear me? Probably not. That mic over there will pick me up anyway, but the good news is I can turn you back on very quickly by going like that, and hello. Very handy. When it comes to the mic, no, it's not going to be as good as that studio mic on the top of the camera over there, obviously, because that costs twice as much as this camera, but it's still pretty good. We have done a little bit of tweaking to get rid of some of the room noise in here, but, well, let me know what you think in the comments. In terms of image quality, I think it's very good, again, for the price. I've been watching back the footage I've been recording for this video, and yes, compared to these two cameras over here. So for instance, that camera over there is pretty much what you normally see on this channel, but it costs many thousands of pounds and the lens is even more expensive. So again, it's not the greatest comparison, but I'm looking at the image of the Pixy on my laptop now, and it's really good. There's a little bit of depth of field going on. It's very quick in terms of focusing. That's a very common problem with lower priced smart cameras for webcams and stuff. They have that smart stuff built in, but the focusing can be a little bit off. But with this, even with the tracking turned on, let me just turn it on like that. The focusing is really fast, so top marks. In terms of the video specs, it's 1.2K imaging and 4K output, and again, for most people, that's overkill for a webcam, but it does mean that you can rely on 4K video for this kind of thing. But who is the EMEET PIXY for? Well, I think if you need an affordable webcam with built-in tracking and lots of features that you may not need, but you want to know that are there in the EMEET Studio app, it's a bit of a no-brainer. I think if you're a creator just starting out, so for instance, if this had happened 5 years ago when I started, I would have gone for this sort of camera because I spent a lot of money on other gear. And back then it didn't make a lot of sense because the business wasn't making any money at all. So if you're just starting out as a creator, then this will work brilliantly. Streamers, I think, will love this camera. That auto tracking feature is incredibly useful, and the very fast autofocus is just something you don't need to worry about. But I think the Pixy just gives you that reassurance no matter what you're doing with it. And yes, it has all of the advanced features, but they don't get in the way. They're there if you need them and you can find them very easily. But if you don't need them, you just plug it in and you're away. That's what I love about this camera. It's simple, it's plug and play. It also has AI built into it, which is genuinely useful. Like anyone, I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed with consumer-facing AI at the moment, and I prefer it when it doesn't get in the way, but it does genuinely useful things. So script generation and auto tracking, that's all the AI we need on a webcam. If you watch this channel regularly, by the way, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't done already. But if you do, you'll know that I'm a big advocate of simple conclusions with products, and this one is about as simple as it comes. Firstly, going back to my original question, can I shoot a YouTube video on a very affordable webcam? Yes, I've just done it. Secondly, is it worth buying if you're not doing all this stuff? Yeah, it really is. The price makes this thing a complete no-brainer. However, I'd love to hear from you. Get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think about this video shot on the EMEET PIXY. And again, if you haven't hit subscribe, you know what to do. Cheers.